The transport shuttle landed with a soft hiss. Steam rose from its cooling engines as the docking bay doors sealed shut behind it. Inside the massive space station that orbited a pale blue gas giant, hundreds of alien students gathered to watch. They had been waiting for this moment for weeks. Today, the first human would arrive at the Academy of Interstellar Sciences. Stepped out of the shuttle with a backpack hanging from one shoulder. She was 14 years old with brown hair tied back in a ponytail and a bright smile on her face. She wore simple clothes, jeans, sneakers, and a hoodie with her old school's logo on it. To her, this felt like the first day at a new school, exciting, a little scary, but mostly exciting. To everyone else in that docking bay, it felt like something very different. The alien students stood frozen. Some of them had never seen a human before except in videos and warning documents. The Galactic Council had sent files to every school in the known universe about Earth and its inhabitants. Its home planet was listed as a Category 7. This was the highest danger rating possible. Earth had gravity that would crush most species. Its atmosphere was filled with oxygen, a gas so reactive that it could corrode metal over time. The planet experienced wild temperature changes, from freezing cold to burning heat. And everywhere on Earth, predators roamed, creatures with claws and fangs and venom. Humans had not only survived on this nightmare world, they had conquered it. And now one of them was standing in the docking bay, waving at everyone like she had just arrived at summer camp. "Hi everyone," called out. Her voice echoed in the sudden silence. "It's so nice to meet you all." Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Smile faltered just a little. She wondered if maybe she had said something wrong. Back on Earth, her teachers had given her lots of advice about being polite to alien cultures. Maybe waving wasn't polite here. She lowered her hand slowly. From the crowd, a tall figure emerged. This was Headmaster, the leader of the academy. He belonged to a species called the... His body was thin and delicate, with skin so pale you could almost see through it. He had 4 arms, each one long and graceful, and his eyes were large and completely black. The headmaster had prepared for this meeting very carefully. He had studied everything the Galactic Council knew about humans. He had practiced his greeting in front of a mirror. He had told himself over and over that this was just a child, a student. There was nothing to fear. But when looked at him, he noticed how her eyes moved. They tracked him, followed him, focused on him with perfect precision. Forward-facing eyes, the eyes of a predator. Every species in the galaxy knew what forward-facing eyes meant. They meant that this creature's ancestors had hunted other living things. "Welcome to the academy," he said. His voice was calm, but inside his heart was beating very fast. "We are honored to have you." "Thank you so much," said. She smiled again, wide and warm. The headmaster saw her teeth. So many teeth. Flat ones in the back for grinding, sharp ones in the front for tearing, a predator's mouth. He suppressed the urge to step backward. "This is your guide," he said, gesturing to a smaller alien standing nearby. "Her name is Prill. She will show you to your room and help you learn your way around the station." Prill was a species that looked somewhat like a cat standing on 2 legs. She had soft orange fur, large pointed ears, and big golden eyes. Right now, those eyes were very wide and her fur was standing on end. Her whole body trembled slightly. "Hello," Prill managed to say. "Oh, you're so cute," said without thinking. "Sorry, is that rude? I didn't mean to be rude, it's just you look like a cat and I love cats. I had 3 cats back home." Prill's ears flattened against her head. The human had predators as pets. Of course she did. "It's fine," Prill said quietly. "Please follow me." As they walked through the curved corridors of the station, looked around with wonder in her eyes. Everything was so different from Earth. The walls glowed with soft light. The floors were made of something smooth and warm. Strange plants grew in containers along the hallways, their leaves glowing in colors she had never seen before. "This place is amazing," said. How long have you been a student here? 2 years, Prill answered. She was walking slightly ahead of, keeping distance between them. She couldn't help it. Every instinct in her body told her to run. That's so cool. What's your favorite subject? Astrobiology. Oh, I love biology. Back home, I was in the science club. We used to dissect things. Laughed. Okay, that sounds really creepy when I say it out loud. Prill didn't respond. She was too busy thinking about the word dissect. They reached room. It was small but comfortable, with a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out at the stars. Dropped her backpack on the bed and spun around slowly, taking it all in. I have a roommate, right? She asked. The information packet said I'd have a roommate. Yes, her name is Tana. She will arrive later. Great, I can't wait to meet her. Prill nodded stiffly. She was already planning to warn Tana. The poor had no idea what she was getting into. Hey, Prill said. Yes. Is everyone okay? People seem kind of nervous around me. Did I do something wrong? Prill looked at the human girl. She saw the confusion in those predator eyes, the genuine concern. Truly didn't understand why everyone was afraid of her. To her, this was just a new school in a new place. She wanted to make friends. She wanted to fit in. Prill felt something unexpected, a tiny crack in her fear, just a small one. You did nothing wrong, Prill said carefully. We are simply not used to humans. You are the first one to ever come here. His face lit up. Oh, that makes sense. Don't worry, I'm really friendly, and I promise I don't bite. She laughed at her own joke. Prill did not laugh. She had read the reports about human teeth. I will see you tomorrow, Prill said. Breakfast is at 700 hours in the main cafeteria. Awesome, see you then. As Prill walked away, her fur slowly began to settle. Her heart rate gradually returned to normal. Behind her, she could hear humming a song as she unpacked her things. A predator, humming, like it was the most normal thing in the universe. Prill hurried back to her own room. She needed to send a message to her family. They would never believe what had walked into the academy today. A creature from a world of nightmares, with forward-facing eyes and teeth made for killing, who thought were cute and wanted nothing more than to make friends. The galaxy, Prill realized, was a very strange place. 1 week passed, and rumors about the humans spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. It started with small things, observations that students whispered to each other in hallways and dining areas. Things they had noticed about that didn't seem right. Things that made their blood run cold. The human didn't sleep like normal creatures. Most species at the academy slept in regular cycles. 8 hours of rest, 16 hours of activity. Their bodies needed this rhythm to function properly, but seemed to operate on a completely different system. She could stay awake for incredibly long stretches of time, 18 hours, 20 hours, sometimes more. And when she did sleep, she could wake up instantly. Tana, her roommate, discovered this on the third night. Tana was a large creature, covered in thick gray scales, with 6 limbs and small black eyes. She moved quietly by nature, her padded feet making almost no sound on the floor. But when she got up in the middle of the night cycle to get water, her eyes snapped open immediately. Hey, you okay? Mumbled, already half sitting up. Tana froze. I did not mean to wake you, I was being quiet. Oh, it's fine, I'm a light sleeper. Back home, there were always sounds at night. You learn to wake up fast, you know. Tana did not know. She did not want to know. A creature that could wake from deep sleep in less than a second at the slightest noise, that was a predator's reflex. An adaptation for a world where danger could come at any moment. The next day, Tana requested a room transfer. She told the housing office that she was not compatible with her current roommate. She did not explain further. She didn't need to. They understood. Was sad when she heard the news, but she didn't take it personally. Maybe she just needs her own space, she told Prill at breakfast. Some people are like that. I hope she's happier in her new room." Prill said nothing. She was watching eat. The humans' diet was another source of horror for the academy. The cafeteria staff had worked hard to prepare food that would be safe for a human to consume. They had studied Earth cuisine and tried to recreate some familiar items, but they had underestimated just how terrifying human eating habits could be. 8 capsaicin. This was a chemical compound found in earth plants called peppers. It triggered pain receptors. It burned. Most species in the galaxy would be seriously injured by consuming even small amounts, but sprinkled it on her food like it was nothing. She called it hot sauce and complained that the cafeteria's version was kind of mild. She also drank caffeine. Caffeine was a stimulant drug that would cause heart failure in most species. On Earth, humans consumed it every single day. Drank something called coffee each morning, a dark, bitter liquid that contained enough caffeine to kill her 3 times over. She said it helped her wake up. And then there was chocolate. Chocolate contained theobromine, a substance so toxic to most species that it was classified as a restricted compound by the Galactic Council. Ate it as a snack. She kept small pieces of it in her backpack and offered them to other students, not understanding why they recoiled in fear. "It's really good," she would say, confused by their reactions. "Are you sure you don't want to try some?" She was offering them poison, with a smile. But the most disturbing incident of first week happened during the physical assessment. All students at the academy were required to complete a basic fitness evaluation. This helped the instructors understand each student's physical capabilities and limitations. The evaluation included simple tests: strength, flexibility, reflexes, and endurance. Performed average on most tests. Her strength was unremarkable compared to species like thee or the stone-bodied. Her flexibility was decent but nothing special. Her reflexes were quick, predator quick, but that was expected. Then came the endurance test. The test was simple. Students had to run around a track until they couldn't continue. The track was 3 kilometers long, 1 complete loop. Most species completed 1 loop and stopped, exhausted. Some of the more athletic students managed 2 loops before their bodies gave out. Completed 1 loop easily, then she kept running. Instructor, a crystalline being who had overseen physical assessments for 30 years, watched his monitoring screen with growing concern. The human's vital signs were elevated but stable. Her breathing was controlled and rhythmic. She showed no signs of stopping. "Miss," he called out through the speaker system, "you may stop now. The test is complete." "Oh, I'm fine," called back, waving as she passed. "I usually run 5 miles back home. Can I keep going? This track is really nice." 5 miles, 8 kilometers, nearly 3 full loops of the track. Said nothing. He simply watched as the human continued to run, her feet striking the ground in a steady, relentless rhythm that seemed like it could continue forever. The other students watched too. Some of them began to understand something terrible, something their ancestors had feared for millions of years, something coded deep into their genes. Humans were persistent hunters. Long ago on their planet, humans had hunted prey by simply following it. They didn't need to be faster than their target. They didn't need to be stronger. They just needed to keep going. They would walk and run and walk again, tracking their prey across vast distances for hours or even days. Eventually, the prey would collapse from exhaustion, and the humans would still be coming. They never stopped, they never gave up, they just kept coming. Finally stopped after 4 complete loops. She wasn't tired, she just got bored. "That was fun," she said, stretching her arms above her head. "Is there a running club here? I'd love to join if there is." There was no running club. No species at the academy could match a human's endurance. The very idea was terrifying. That evening, instructor filed a report with the Galactic Council. He kept his language professional and scientific, but his message was clear. The reports about human physical capabilities were not exaggerated. If anything, they were understated. The human girl was friendly and kind and smiled constantly. She offered poison candy to classmates and didn't understand why they were afraid. She thought everyone was just shy. But underneath that sweet exterior was something forged on a world of nightmares, a predator that could outlast anything, a creature whose ancestors had walked prey to death. And she had no idea how terrifying she was. That night sat in her room, alone now since Tana had transferred, and wrote a message to her parents back on Earth. "School is going great," she typed. "Everyone is really nice, but they seem kind of nervous around me. I think they're just not used to humans. I'm trying really hard to make friends. Prill is warming up to me, I think. She doesn't shake as much when I talk to her now. Tomorrow I'm going to ask if anyone wants to study together. I really want to fit in here. Miss you lots. Love." She sent the message and went to bed, dreaming of making friends and having adventures in space. She had no idea that across the station, hundreds of students were lying awake, unable to sleep, thinking about the predator that had walked into their school with a smile on her face. The field trip to Hollow Moon Theta 9 was supposed to be a simple educational excursion. Second-year students would visit the moon's famous cave systems, study the bioluminescent organisms that lived there, and collect samples for their biology classes. It was considered one of the safest trips on the Academy's schedule. Was excited. She had never been to a moon before. Earth's moon was barren and dead, but Theta 9 was alive with strange glowing plants and crystal formations. She packed her sample kit and her camera and bounced on her feet as the students boarded the transport ship. "Have you done this trip before?" she asked Prill, who was standing nearby. "Yes, last year," Prill said. She was less nervous around now. After 3 months of sharing classes and meals, she had started to believe that maybe, just maybe, the human really didn't want to eat anyone. "The caves are beautiful. You will like them." "I can't wait." The transport landed on Theta 9's surface, and the students divided into groups. Each group had an instructor and 10 students. Was assigned to Group 7, along with Prill and 8 others, 3, 2, 2, and 1 crystalline. Instructor, a tall with silver skin and 3 eyes, led them into the caves. The tunnels were wide and the walls sparkled with embedded minerals. Strange plants clung to the rocks, their leaves glowing soft blue and green. It looked like something from a fairy tale. "Stay together," instructor told the group. "These caves are stable, but there are some areas that are off limits. Follow the marked path and do not wander." Took pictures of everything. The glowing plants, the crystal formations, her classmates exploring. She was having the time of her life. Then the ground shook. It started as a low rumble like distant thunder. Then it grew louder, stronger. The walls of the cave began to crack. Pieces of rock fell from the ceiling. "Earthquake," instructor shouted. "Everyone out now." The students ran, grabbed Prill's arm and pulled her along, her human legs carrying her faster than most of the others could manage. They reached a wider section of the cave just as the tunnel behind them collapsed with a deafening crash. Dust filled the air, students coughed and stumbled. When the shaking finally stopped, instructor did a. They were missing 12 students. His heart sank. She could see where the tunnel had caved in. A massive wall of broken rock now blocked the passage. On the other side, trapped in an unstable chamber, were a dozen of her classmates. "Can anyone hear me?" Instructor shouted into the rubble. His voice was desperate. A faint response came back, muffled, weak. "We're here, we're alive, but there's gas, some kind of spore gas. It's getting hard to breathe." The instructor's 3 eyes went wide with fear. He pulled out his communication device and contacted the academy. The conversation was short and terrible. Rescue teams were 40 minutes away. The atmospheric readings from the trapped chamber showed toxic spore gas building up. At the current rate, the students inside had maybe 15 minutes before the concentration became lethal. 15 minutes, rescue in 40. The math was simple and horrible. Those students were going to die. Looked at the wall of rubble. She looked at her classmates, frozen with fear and grief. She looked at instructor who was speaking frantically into his communicator, begging for faster help that wouldn't come. And something changed inside her. It wasn't a conscious decision. It wasn't something she thought about. It was deeper than that. Something old. Something programmed into her DNA over millions of years on a world where you either fought for your tribe or everyone died. Those students were her classmates, her people, her pack. She started climbing. "What are you doing?" Prill screamed. "The rocks are unstable, you'll be crushed." "Then I'll be fast," said. Her hands found holds in the broken stone. Her feet pushed her upward. The rubble shifted and groaned beneath her, but she kept moving. A sharp rock sliced her palm open. She ignored it. Blood, red blood, bright and strange to alien eyes, dripped down her arm. She kept climbing. She reached a gap near the top of the collapse. It was small, barely wide enough for her to squeeze through. She didn't hesitate. She pushed her body into the opening and crawled. On the other side, the chamber was filled with a sickly yellow mist, the spore gas. Could feel it burning her lungs with each breath. Her eyes watered. Her throat ached. But she had read about this gas in her xenobiology class. It was lethal to most species in minutes. To humans, it was just painful. Her body could filter out enough of the toxins to survive, at least for a while. The trapped students were huddled in a corner, their breathing shallow, some of them already unconscious. 12 lives, 12 people who would die if she didn't move. Didn't think, she acted. She grabbed 2 of the smallest students, their orange fur now matted with dust, and threw them over her shoulders, one under each arm. They weighed almost nothing to her. Earth's gravity was so much stronger than this moon's. She carried them back through the gap. Her arms scraped against the rocks. More blood, more pain. She ignored it. On the other side, she handed the unconscious students to instructor, who stared at her with all 3 eyes wide with shock. "Keep them breathing," said. "I'm going back." "You can't, the gas, you'll." But she was already gone. Back through the gap, back into the yellow mist, 2 more students, this time heavier but still manageable in the low gravity. She carried them out. Back again, 2. Back again, the crystalline student, whose rocky body was harder to grip, but she managed anyway. Back again and again and again. On her 6th trip, a boulder shifted and pinned her leg. The pain was incredible, sharp and immediate and overwhelming. Screamed, but she didn't stop. She braced her arms against the rock and pushed with everything she had. Her legs scraped free, leaving skin and blood on the stone. She kept moving. The last 2 students, both unconscious, both barely breathing, grabbed them and crawled back through the gap one final time. When she emerged, the rescue team had just arrived. They stood at the edge of the collapse, staring in disbelief at the human girl who had done the impossible. Set down the last 2 students gently, then her legs gave out. She sat down heavily against the cave wall, her whole body shaking. Her hands were torn and bloody. Her leg throbbed with pain. Her lungs burned from the toxic gas. She was covered in dust and cuts and bruises. But all 12 students were out. All 12 were alive. Prill rushed to her side. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," said. Her voice was hoarse. "Just tired and hungry. Does anyone have a snack?" She looked around at the aliens staring at her. Instructor, the rescue team, her classmates, all of them looking at her like she was something they had never seen before. "What?" she asked. "I was hungry. It's an adrenaline thing. My body burns a lot of energy when—" She didn't finish the sentence. Prill had wrapped her furry arms around her in a hug. Prill, who had been afraid to stand too close to her just 3 months ago. Prill, whose fur still stood on end whenever predator eyes focused on her. Prill was hugging her and crying. "You saved them," Prill whispered. "You saved all of them." Hugged her back. confused but grateful for the warmth. "Of course I did," she said simply. "They're my classmates." She didn't understand why everyone was acting like this was something special. She didn't understand why the rescue team was calling her a hero. She didn't understand why, when they finally got back to the academy, Headmaster himself was waiting at the docking bay with tears in his large black eyes. She had just done what anyone would do. You don't leave your people behind. That was basic. That was obvious. That was human. The news spread across the academy within hours. A human had saved 12 students from certain death. She had climbed through unstable rubble, breath-toxic gas that should have killed her, and carried her classmates out one by one with her bare hands. She had been injured, badly injured, and she hadn't stopped. She hadn't even slowed down. And when it was over, she had asked for a snack. Spent 3 days in the medical wing. The doctors were fascinated by her. Her wounds, which would have taken most species weeks to heal, were already closing by the second day. Her body had filtered out most of the toxins from the spore gas on its own. Her leg, which had been scraped down to the muscle when she pulled it free from the boulder, was healing at a rate that the medical staff called disturbing. "Your species has remarkable regeneration," the head doctor, unnamed, told her. "Your body is already producing new tissue to replace what was lost." Shrugged, "Humans heal pretty fast, I guess. My little brother fell off his bike once and scraped his knee really bad. He was fine in like 2 weeks." Made a note in her medical file. She didn't tell that for most species. Such an injury would mean months of recovery and possibly permanent damage. Visitors came constantly. The 12 students had rescued came first. They stood at the entrance to her room, nervous and unsure, not knowing what to say to the creature that had saved their lives. Some of them had been afraid of her before. Some of them had whispered about the predator in the docking bay on her first day. Now they looked at her with different eyes. "Thank you," a named Myra said quietly. She had been one of the first students carried out. "I would have died without you. We all would have." "Don't mention it," said with a warm smile. "I'm just glad everyone's okay." "Why did you do it?" asked Goral, one of the. His gray scales were still dusty from the cave. "You could have died. You almost did die. Why would you risk your life for us? We're not your family. We're not even your species." Looked confused by the question. "You're my classmates," she said, as if that explained everything. "You needed help. What else was I supposed to do?" The aliens exchanged looks. They didn't understand. How could they? Their species had evolved on safe worlds, worlds where danger was rare and predators were few. They had never needed the fierce loyalty that humans developed. They had never been forged in the fire of a world that wanted them dead. After the rescued students came the others. Classmates barely knew, students from different years and departments, even some of the instructors. They all wanted to see the human who had done the impossible. Tana came too, the who had requested a room transfer because she was afraid would eat her in her sleep. She stood in the doorway, her 6 limbs folded awkwardly, her small black eyes wet with tears. "I'm sorry," Tana said. "I was afraid of you. I asked to leave our room because I thought you were dangerous. I was wrong." Reached out and took Tana's clawed hand. "Hey, it's okay. I get it. I'm weird and new and different. I probably would have been nervous too." "You're not dangerous," Tana said. "You're the opposite. You're a protector." Smiled. "I mean, I can be both. I've been told I'm pretty scary when I'm angry. You should see me playing video games." Tana didn't understand the joke, but she laughed anyway. It felt good to laugh with the human instead of trembling in fear. On the 4th day, was released from the medical wing. She expected things to go back to normal. Instead, she found that everything had changed. Students no longer avoided her in the hallways. They smiled at her. They waved. Some of them even tried to sit with her at meals. The fear that had surrounded her like a fog for months had lifted. Prill was waiting for her outside the medical wing, but she wasn't alone. A group of students stood with her, even a few. They were holding a banner painted with bright colors and awkward letters. "Welcome back," the banner read. Stopped, her eyes went wide. For a moment she couldn't speak. "We made you something," Prill said. Her voice was shy but warm. "To say thank you, and to say that we're glad you're here, that we're glad you came to our school." Felt tears welling up in her eyes. She had spent months trying to make friends, trying to understand why everyone seemed afraid of her. She had smiled and waved and offered chocolate and tried so hard to fit in. And now, finally, they were welcoming her. "You guys," she whispered, this is so nice." She hugged Prill. Then she hugged Tana, who had joined the group. Then she tried to hug everyone at once, which didn't really work, but they appreciated the effort. That evening, Headmaster called to his office. The headmaster's office was a large circular room at the top of the academy's central tower. The walls were made of transparent crystal, offering a view of the stars in every direction. Sat behind a desk made of polished metal, his 4 arms folded thoughtfully. "Please sit," he said, gesturing to a chair. Sat. She was nervous. She had never been called to the principal's office before, and she wasn't sure if she was in trouble or not. "You are not in trouble," said, reading her expression. "Quite the opposite. I wish to speak with you about what happened, about what you did." "I just helped some people who needed help," said. "Yes, you did." The headmaster leaned forward, his black eyes studying her face. "But I don't think you understand how remarkable that is, how confusing it is to everyone here." "Confusing?" "Your species," said carefully, "is classified as a predator. You evolved on a planet of constant danger. Your bodies are designed to hunt, to survive, to endure. Everything about you, your eyes, your teeth, your persistence, your resistance to toxins, speaks of a creature that should see other beings as prey or as competition." Shifted uncomfortably. She had heard this before, in the whispers and stares of her first months at the academy. "But what you did in that cave," continued, "was not the behavior of a predator. It was the behavior of something else entirely, something we didn't expect." "What do you mean?" "You protected them." The headmaster's voice was soft with wonder. 12 students who are not your family, not your species, not even your friends. You risked your life to save them. You suffered pain that would have stopped anyone else. And when I asked you why, do you know what you told me?" Shook her head. "You said, 'They're my classmates,' as if that explained everything, as if that was reason enough to die for them." The headmaster stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "Your species did not survive by being alone. You survived by forming groups, tribes, packs. You protected each other. You fought for each other. You developed loyalty so fierce that you would walk through fire for someone you barely know, simply because they belong to your group." He turned back to face her. "The galaxy was afraid of humans because we thought you were predators. But we missed the most important part. You are pack-bonded predators. And once someone becomes part of your pack, your classmates, your friends, your family, you will do anything to protect them." Thought about this. It sounded dramatic when he said it like that, but wasn't that just normal? "I guess I never thought about it," she said. People needed help. I could help, so I did." "Yes," Headmaster said quietly, "that's exactly what I mean." He returned to his desk and sat down again. "You have changed the way this academy sees humanity. You have changed the way I see humanity. And I believe, in time, you may change the way the entire galaxy sees your species." Didn't know what to say, so she just smiled, that bright, warm human smile that no longer made anyone flinch. "Thanks," she said, "but I'm really just trying to make some friends and pass my classes." For the first time since arrived at the academy, Headmaster laughed. 3 years passed. Was no longer the nervous 14-year-old who had stepped off a shuttle and wondered why everyone seemed afraid of her. She was 17 now, taller and more confident, with the same warm smile but with something new behind her eyes. Experience. Wisdom. the kind of quiet strength that came from facing hard things and surviving. She had become something of a legend at the academy. Not because of the cave rescue, though everyone still remembered that. Not because she could run for hours without stopping, or because she ate poison for breakfast, or because her wounds healed faster than anyone thought possible. It was because of how she lived every single day. Had decided, somewhere along the way, that the entire academy was her pack. When a first-year crystalline student was being bullied by older classmates stepped in. She didn't fight. She just stood there between the bullies and their target and looked at them with those forward-facing predator eyes. The bullies backed down immediately. They had heard the stories. They knew what a human could do when protecting her pack. When a student failed an important exam and was considering dropping out, sat with him for 6 hours, helping him study, encouraging him, telling him that failure was just part of learning. He passed the makeup exam. He graduated in the top of his class. When a teacher fell ill and couldn't lead her expedition to a research station, volunteered to help organize the trip. She worked for 3 days straight, sleeping only a few hours each night until everything was ready. The teacher recovered. The expedition was a success. Collected people. She adopted them without even realizing she was doing it. Prill, her first guide, became her best friend. Tana, who had once been terrified of her, became her roommate again by choice. The 12 students she had rescued in the cave formed a group that called themselves Survivors, and they met once a month to study together and share meals. By her final year, knew almost everyone at the academy, and everyone knew her, not as the predator, not as the terrifying human, as there. When graduation day arrived, the academy auditorium was filled to capacity. This was unusual. Graduation ceremonies were normally attended by students, staff, and some family members. But today, representatives from dozens of worlds had traveled to the station. Diplomats, scientists, military officers, news reporters, they all wanted to see the human. Stories had spread beyond the academy walls. The Galactic Council had received reports, hundreds of them, about the human girl who had saved lives, protected the weak, and transformed fear into friendship. Some officials thought these reports must be exaggerated. They came to see for themselves. Was selected as valedictorian. This meant she would give a speech to the graduating class, and unexpectedly, to one of the largest audiences ever assembled at the academy. Standing backstage, felt nervous for the first time in years. She looked down at the speech she had written. It seemed too simple now, too ordinary. What could she possibly say to all these people from all these worlds? Prill found her there, packing back and forth. "You're going to be great," Prill said. Her fur was smooth and calm. She hadn't been afraid of for a very long time. "There are so many people out there," whispered. "Important people. What if I mess up? What if I say something wrong?" Prill took her hand. "Just be yourself. That's all you've ever needed to be." Took a deep breath. She crumpled up her prepared speech and threw it in a recycling bin. Prill was right. She didn't need fancy words. She just needed to be. She walked onto the stage. The auditorium fell silent. Hundreds of eyes, some with pupils, some without, some glowing, some completely black, all fixed on the small human standing at the podium. Looked out at the sea of alien faces, crystalline and furred and tentacled and scaled. Her classmates, her friends, her pack. She smiled. And this time, no one flinched at her teeth. "When I came here 4 years ago," she began, her voice steady, "everyone was afraid of me. I didn't understand why at first. I was just a kid from Earth, excited about space school, hopping to make some friends." A soft ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. "Then I learned about the reports, the classifications, predator, pursuit hunter, toxic blood, forward-facing eyes." She grinned wider. "Excellent teeth." Real laughter now, felt her confidence growing. "The galaxy looked at humans and saw everything dangerous about us, and that's fair. We did evolve on a world that was trying to kill us every single day. We developed adaptations that most species find terrifying. We can run for hours. We can survive injuries that would kill others. We eat things that would poison anyone else. We're stubborn and relentless and really, really hard to stop. She paused, letting the words sink in. But here's what those reports never told you. Here's what the Galactic Council missed when they classified us. She looked out at Prill sitting in the front row, at Tana, at the 12 survivors, at Headmaster whose large black eyes were already glistening. Humans aren't dangerous because we're strong. We're dangerous because we care. The auditorium was completely silent. We evolved as pack animals. We survived because we stuck together, because we protected each other, because we decided that our tribe, our family, our friends, our classmates was worth dying for. And once you're part of our pack, we don't let go, ever. She thought about the cave, about climbing through rubble and breathing toxic gas and carrying students one by one through the darkness. We will chase you across planets. We will walk through poison. We will dig through mountains with our bare hands, not because we want to hurt you, because we want to keep you safe, because you're ours now and we protect what's ours. She smiled again, that warm human smile that had once terrified everyone. So yes, I'm a predator, guilty as charged, but look around this room. Every single one of you is part of my pack now, my friends, my family. I've got 300 aliens who I'd walk through fire for. She leaned forward, her eyes sweeping across the audience. The galaxy should watch out because I'm not the only human anymore. There are billions of us, and once we decide you're our people, she shrugged, good luck getting rid of us. The silence stretched for one heartbeat, two. Then the applause started. It began with Prill standing in the front row, clapping her small furry hands together. Then Tana joined in, her 6 limbs creating a thunderous sound. Then the 12 survivors. Then the other students. Then the teachers. Then the diplomats and scientists and officers. The entire auditorium rose to their feet. The applause became a roar. Some species made sounds instead of clapping, whistles and clicks and rumbles, but they all meant the same thing. Stood at the podium, tears streaming down her face, as hundreds of beings from dozens of worlds celebrated her. Celebrated humanity. Celebrated the predators who protected instead of hunted, who adopted instead of conquered, who loved fiercely and fought harder. After the ceremony, was surrounded by people wanting to shake her hand, take pictures, ask questions. Diplomats talked about exchange programs. Scientists asked about human biology. Officers discussed possible cooperation between their militaries and Earth's forces. But politely excused herself from all of it. She had somewhere more important to be. She found her friends waiting for her outside the auditorium. Prill and Tana, the 12 survivors, a dozen others who had become part of her pack over the years. They stood in a group, holding a small cake with candles on it. We wanted to celebrate, Prill said, just us, your pack. Laughed and cried at the same time. She hugged each of them in turn, holding on tight, feeling their warmth and their love and their trust. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for giving me a chance, for letting me in, for not being afraid anymore. We were wrong to be afraid, Tana said. You showed us that. I didn't show you anything, said. I just saw people who needed a friend. People who needed someone to care about them. That's not special, that's just human. Prill shook her head. No, that's exactly what makes your species special. They ate the cake together, sitting on the floor of the hallway, laughing and talking about memories from the past 4 years. The diplomats and reporters could wait. The galaxy could wait. Right now was exactly where she wanted to be, surrounded by her pack, ready to protect them from anything the universe might throw their way. She was a predator, and she wouldn't have it any other way.